hidden political moves. Long before the Clone Wars erupted, the downfall of the Jedi had already been engineered. Chancellor Palpatine, secretly Darth Sidious, spent years shaping the Republic into a system where the Jedi could be branded as traitors. It began during the Naboo crisis, when Palpatine leveraged the Trade Federation blockade to secure emergency powers. These were presented as temporary wartime measures, but they set a precedent. The Chancellor could bypass normal Senate approval whenever security demanded it. As the Separatist movement expanded, new powers followed, each framed as reluctant but necessary steps to defend the Republic. Meanwhile, the Jedi were drawn deeper into politics and war. Once impartial mediators, they became generals of the Grand Army of the Republic. HoloNet broadcasts shifted their image from wise guardians to military commanders, tying them directly to the costs of the war. Palpatine exploited this by assigning Jedi to the most visible battlefronts, ensuring that every failure or civilian loss reflected on them. Through legislative maneuvers, loyal senators tightened the chain of command until the Chancellor, not the Jedi Council, held ultimate authority over the clone army. By the war's third year, Palpatine could issue military orders without Senate debate. At the same time, rumors spread that Jedi were questioning Palpatine's leadership, even considering his removal. These stories were seeded through staged meetings, altered transmissions, and anonymous leaks. By the time the final command came, the Republic's citizens were already primed to see the Jedi as potential traitors. Kaminoan motives and inhibitor chips. The weapon Palpatine required was forged on Kamino. The Kaminoans, masters of genetic engineering, produced clones bred for obedience and discipline. Central to this design was the inhibitor chip, implanted at the earliest stages of development. The chips contained contingency orders, locked away until activated by the proper authority. Among them was Order 66. If the Jedi ever turned against the Republic, clones were to eliminate them immediately. The programming was seamless. The chip ensured not only obedience, but also the belief that the Jedi had indeed betrayed the Republic. For the troopers, executing the order would feel like loyalty, not treason. The Kaminoans did not concern themselves with morality. For them, obedience was a product delivered to their client. Their loyalty lay with their contract, not the lives of Jedi who had never been told of the chip's existence. Jedi blind spots. Palpatine's schemes succeeded in part because the Jedi failed to adapt. Their philosophy emphasized detachment and trust in the Force, principles that became liabilities during war. There were warning signs. Clones occasionally displayed unsettling behavior, strange coordination, or emotional distance. These anomalies were dismissed as side effects of cloning. The Jedi Council also underestimated Palpatine's rise in the Senate, assuming democratic systems would check his power. Most critically, Jedi believed their personal bonds with clones were unbreakable. After years of shared battles, they could not imagine betrayal from soldiers who had become brothers in arms. That assumption blinded them to the danger hidden in plain sight. Execution of Order 66. When the command was given, it spread instantly across secure channels. On dozens of worlds, clone troopers turned their weapons on their Jedi commanders without hesitation. Ki Adimundi fell on Maigito, gunned down mid-charge by his own men. Aayla Secura was cut down on Felucia before she could react. Stas Ali was executed on Saleukami during a routine patrol. Jedi, trained to anticipate enemy strikes, could not defend against betrayal from trusted allies at their side. The clones were uniquely suited to the task. Years of service alongside Jedi had given them insight into their generals' reflexes, fighting styles, and tactics. They knew how their commanders would respond and used that knowledge to strike with precision. Siege of the Jedi Temple. The Jedi Temple on Coruscant, symbol of the Order's history and authority, became the focal point of the Purge. The assault was led by Darth Vader, once Anakin Skywalker, supported by the elite 501 Saint Legion. The first step was to cut communications. Distress signals never left the temple, and internal alerts were redirected into dead channels. Breach teams advanced with insider codes known only to Anakin, disabling defenses in minutes. Temple guards resisted, using narrow corridors to counter the clones' numbers, but Vader personally eliminated each stand. In training halls and classrooms, Padawans and younglings were trapped. Older students attempted to escape through maintenance passages, but suppression squads were already waiting. Vader himself ensured that no initiates survived, erasing the future of the Order. Special detachments seized the archives, confiscating or destroying holocrons and star charts. In the deep vaults, Sith artifacts, once locked away by the Jedi, were recovered for Palpatine. What could not be taken was destroyed. Scattered Jedi tried to rally or escape, but hangars were sealed, fail-safes overridden, and exit routes blocked. Only a handful escaped through hidden service shafts unknown to most. Outside, the HoloNet broadcast images of the temple under siege. Official reports described it as a lawful action against a Jedi coup. The public, exhausted by years of war, saw familiar clone troopers enforcing order and accepted the story. Flaws in the plan. Despite its efficiency, the Purge was not perfect. Variations among clones created rare cases of hesitation. Commander Rex struggled against his programming long enough to warn Ahsoka Tano, allowing her to survive. Some Jedi were far from clone forces when the Order came, buying them time to hide. In rare cases, rumors about the inhibitor chips caused suspicion among clones, weakening the command's effect. The operation also left temporary gaps in Imperial control. With Jedi eliminated, some regions fell into instability before the Empire could consolidate authority. These cracks were quickly sealed, but they revealed the plan's limits. The hunt for survivors. Though Palpatine declared the Jedi extinct, he knew survivors remained. Imperial intelligence, the Security Bureau, and bounty hunters were tasked with rooting them out. The Empire monitored communications for Jedi codes, stationed patrols at hyperspace lanes, and spread propaganda portraying the Jedi as extremists. Bounty hunters tracked fugitives beyond Imperial reach, while fear campaigns eroded sympathy among civilians. Surviving Jedi often abandoned their names and weapons, living in obscurity. For them, survival meant resisting not only capture, but the temptation to reveal themselves by helping others. The hunt lasted for years, and even after the fall of the Republic's clone army, the mission to extinguish Jedi never ended. Why it could only happen. Once, Order 66 was possible only under a unique set of conditions. The clone army was a centralized force, millions of identical soldiers bred for obedience, all under the command of a single chancellor. The Jedi were spread thin, isolated on distant worlds, without allies or private armies. Palpatine controlled the Senate and the media, ensuring his narrative dominated before alternatives could spread. Years of war had normalized military rule, so the Purge seemed like an extension of existing security measures. These conditions could never be replicated. The Empire soon replaced clones with conscripts of diverse backgrounds, eliminating the absolute unity that had made Order 66 possible. The Jedi Order ceased to exist as a single institution, leaving no centralized target. And over time, communication networks became too decentralized for one voice to control. Order 66 was a perfect storm of political manipulation, centralized power, and military obedience. It could only happen once. Final assessment. Order 66 was not a spontaneous betrayal. It was the result of decades of planning. Palpatine's manipulation of politics, Kaminoan engineering, Jedi missteps, and a war that blurred the line between peacekeepers and soldiers. In a single night, the Guardians of the Republic were branded traitors and erased. The galaxy entered an age of empire, built not on truth, but on obedience and fear. Order 66 ended the Jedi Order as a living institution. It was unique, unrepeated, and irreversible.